Hello, beautiful people. You are listening to the Communal Table podcast, part of Food and Wine Pro. I am your host, senior editor, Kat Kinsman, and my guest today is somebody who, she's amazing. Personally, she's amazing professionally. I love her food. I love what she's doing for the industry, and she's in New York City right now at Chef's Club, which she will explain some more about, but usually you can find her in Asheville, North Carolina at her incredible restaurants, Cúrate and the newer Button & Co. Bagels. Welcome to the show, Katie Button. Does that make sense? Is that okay? I feel I should explain to the audience also the cold medicine that I took last night is having a second wave right now. So if things seem a little loopy, that's what's up.
Makes it more interesting.
Oh my gosh, how you doing, Katie?
I'm good.
Katie Button, you are in New York City, which is not where you usually cook.
No, that is correct. I've been here since for over a month, so it's great.
Okay, let's talk about where you usually are and what you're doing here.
So usually in Asheville, North Carolina, I have two restaurants, Cúrate and a bagel shop, Button & Co. Bagels.
I'm going to just interrupt for a second and say, Cúrate, I stayed an extra day beyond my plans in Asheville, so I could actually eat lunch there, and I was so grateful. It was a pretty significant day as well because Jose Andres was, I think he was being sworn in as an American citizen that day, or there was some sort of big thing,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of... I was eating something in particular there that one of your servers was saying like, oh, it's very Jose Andres. And it just felt like this really meaningful moment. I was thinking, the earth was telling me what to do, stay in Asheville and eat this food. And it was such an extraordinary meal. I had to drive like hell once I got out of there, but that kept me in Asheville.
He's an amazing individual, and I feel fortunate to have had a lot of help and mentorship and ideas from him. So,
did you stage at El Bulli?
I did. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I did. Yeah.
Even through the cold medicine,
Right.
I remember this.
Yes. Yeah. But it was an amazing experience.
So you have that, and you have Button & Co. Bagels.
Yes, I opened a bagel shop because born in South Carolina, but I grew up in New Jersey, and then moving.
We're in New Jersey. I don't think I knew that.
Northern New Jersey. It's near Mountain Lakes. It's like near Morristown.
Oh, okay. I grew up in my first 2 years of my life in Teaneck. So
Oh, okay.
The world is tiny.
Yes, it is. New Jersey is great.
It is. It really is. And then you found your way to South Carolina, and then so how long were you in South Carolina?
So, I was born in South Carolina,
Okay.
and we moved up to New Jersey when I was about 7. My grandparents had retired there, and that's my connection down to the south.
And you found your way back to North Carolina. How'd that happen?
That was just when we were deciding to go into business on our own.
Who's the we?
My mother, myself, my father, and my then fiance. We weren't even married yet. I think we were like using the restaurant as like a test run. It's like if you can get through the opening of a restaurant. Then you can get married. So
Wow, that is a trial by fire.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God, you seem to be gently knock on table doing just fine.
Yes, it was. We moved down to Asheville, North Carolina, just to open a Spanish tapas bar, like a little small restaurant.
Right. Just do this little thing together. No big whoop.
Had no idea, where our path was headed. But
And was he also in restaurants?
yes, so Felix worked at El Bulli for 5 years in the front of the house in service and beverage.
Is that where you met?
We actually met working in D.C. for Jose Andres because
wow.
a lot of the chefs and people at El Bulli, when El Bulli was closed every year for the 6 months it would close every year, would come to D.C., learn English, like work with Jose, and that's where I met Felix. And the other chefs at El Bulli, and that's where I got to learn about what El Bulli was like and what it was, and that's how I had the opportunity to go back and work there.
Okay, can you brief the people on what El Bulli was and kind of, if you feel comfortable, what it continues to be?
Yeah, so, I mean, gosh, that's I don't know if I'm going to do that justice, but look, simply, it was one of the best restaurants in the world for 5 years. It was the best restaurant in the world for 5 years,
voted by every organization
in a row. But it was one of the best restaurants in the world for ages, and I would say it also really marked a change in food and creativity of a time period that we will all look at as. Shifting the culinary landscape forever. And El Bulli and Ferran were a really big part of that shift. It was And it continues to represent that. And now they're actually working on a foundation project construction in the old El Bulli site to create some sort of research and like laboratory to continue the exploration of food and cooking techniques in that space.
It's an extraordinary thing, and the family tree of people who have come out of there is absolutely extraordinary because it pretty much relied on people doing stages there, like any of these huge operations like there or Noma or just any of these other sort of legendary kitchens need a gazillion hands there. And so when you stage, you go there and you work for free or kind of have to pay to be there yourself, but you pick up this education that you could nowhere else on earth, and people would really compete to stage there.
Absolutely. It was my culinary school, and I think it was so worth it. I learned so much in that time, even though it's what secured for me in my mind. I knew that I was doing what I love to do because it was a very intense, high pressure environment. It was hard work. It was a lot of it was monotonous work, and I loved every minute of it.
All of that precision, right?
Yes,
Well, it's okay. So there's you and your then fiance who have worked at this extraordinary, groundbreaking place, and you have this background in Spanish food and this incredible education. So you decide to go to the South to open up some tapas. Natural move there. So what was the impetus in particular to take this specific skill set and take it to Asheville?
We looked in the Northeast because that's where I grew up, and we were looking around the New York, New Jersey area. It was so expensive. And just, I don't know, every place that we looked at, it just nothing clicked, and it didn't feel right. And I went on this road trip with my mother, actually, to try to find, we went into this family business. It's very much a family business. I went on a road trip with my mother, like through North Carolina, just because I wanted to be close to my grandmother. She was in South Carolina, and I had this real, like, solid connection from my childhood of memories of Southern food and just, like, culture. And if I was going to move anywhere else, it was going to be that area.
Yeah.
So we looked all over North Carolina, and when we came through Asheville, honestly, it was like, a lot of people who live in Asheville say the same thing. There is something about the like mountains and the rivers and this like vibrant downtown full of historic buildings that nobody tore down that like now have little coffee shops or breweries or art stores or it's really special, and we fell in love, and it was like, wow, this is definitely the place.
I have had that feeling. It's really interesting that you say that because the first time that I went, when I did get to, went to your restaurants, I had just come from an extremely emotional experience. My parents had sold their place in Kentucky and moved to Greenville. Which is really not far from Asheville. My sister had moved there and worked for a while. And so my mother is she's got various degenerative conditions and sort of a lot of ailments seen and unseen. And I hadn't seen my parents for a while, and I went down to visit them. And, my dad had sort of told me before I went to see them that she was much changed and her condition had gotten a lot worse. And so I'd gone down to Greenville to see them and had this, incredibly emotional experience, and took them to my favorite Southern cafeteria there and stuff. And it was this really powerful thing. And TMI, I heard her say my name for the first time in a long time. It was all this kind of stuff. And I had this road trip ahead of me, and I just remember leaving there, and it's not a very long drive to Asheville, but getting to Asheville and something about exactly what you were saying, this coming together of the environment, what you can see, what you can feel there, just hitting me in that particular way, checking into my hotel and just sinking into the bed there, and then thinking like, okay, this is an amazing thing, and then like going about the business of feeding myself. So there's just sort of this extra layer to that. And then after I left your restaurant, I went and found like, I think it's like Olive and Sinclair chocolate. Is that with you? Or there's some chocolate that's there, but I just remember walking around there and feeling like it was this healing kind of place too. So
French broad chocolate.
That's what it was.
Yes.
I do love Olive and Sinclair also, but it was French broad chocolate specifically. And I bought myself this little ring, and then I ended up going on this crazy, actually it was a road trip on the way to Oxford, Mississippi, Mississippi, where I was
Oh,
this year. I was
yes.
doing the debate with Kim Severson.
Awesome.
But this all goes to say that this particular kind of cooking you're doing and this environment that you're setting up, it makes sense now that you say all of this coming together of it.
And it was interesting to like pick the place that you then are going to live for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But we're so happy it was a good decision.
And did you find you go there? Did you have a particular place picked out, like a location for the restaurant? Or you're just sort of, we're going to get here, we're going to land, we're going to figure it out.
We didn't even know the concept we were opening. We were just like,
okay. This is a huge leap of faith on your part.
This was just us, like, just taking a step in life, and who knows what's going to happen. And
wow, you're just grabbing hands, jumping into the abyss here.
Yes.
So I take it he gets along really well with your family.
It's great. Yes, Felix gets along great with my family. It is also challenging to work in a family business,
Right.
which I mean, it's not. It's very highs and also it's lows.
Yeah, because you cannot escape that.
No. Family. You would never. I think at the core of it is that you never talk to people like other people the way that you talk to family members. like
Yep.
like all decorum, like, and on my part, like just falling into the roles of daughter. It's so like talking back to my mom. It's like
sassing back to your mom.
Totally. It's like really inappropriate in a business, but it's really hard to escape.
Right.
So anyway, even as I get older, it doesn't go away.
No, and it's interesting. I actually love to talk to people who are in business also with their partner.
Oh yeah.
And the lines along which that falls, because I have a lot of friends who their relationship is one is front of house, one is back of house, kind of thing. And how do you negotiate that? And then how do you check it at the door once you get home?
We are not doing great at that.
I don't think anybody is truly, even the people who really say they're like,
we try to have areas, but the problem is that I care, like Felix is in service and I'm in food, but the problem is I care so much about the service in our restaurants, and Felix cares so much about the food that it's impossible for us to separate and like draw those lines and not, we frequently end up in those situations where I'll be like, don't tell me what to do in my area. And he'll be like, wait, but you tell me all the time what to do in my area. And I'm like, you're right. And,
those are important words in a marriage too. You're right.
You're right.
That's an incredible thing, because it seems like the winner of that is, well, the customer, the guest.
Yes.
Seems if you're both caring that much about it, that's an incredible thing. But like, do you have moments where you leave it and you say like, okay, here we have to both make a concerted effort to have this be nothing to do with business right now and just be us?
Yeah, I think we need to do better at that.
Right.
I mean, we're like working on it, but
Yeah.
It's something I'm talking to my therapist about. How do I make life?
Oh, God bless therapy.
I just started in August.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
Thank you.
That is huge.
And I feel like I'm telling everybody in the world because it has been amazing.
You know what? It's such a great time because it's like, for me, it's set in stone. Like, y'all, I have to go and do this right now. I remember sent a note to our Slack group last week where we were trying to get this story out, and I said, everybody, I need to go to therapy right now, or else like this story is going to make me punch a wall. And it was like nothing to do with anybody there, but just like the subject matter of it and stuff. And everybody's like, you go do that, like not because they were afraid of me or any. God, I hope not, but because they knew that it would be healthy for me, that it would be great for the story. It's such a magnificent thing.
Yeah, I know. I come into work so much more fresh after, when I am able to do that once a week. So,
do you have a post-therapy ritual?
No, I should though. I have kind of a
used to.
pre-therapy ritual. I go to. It's like the one day I'm also trying, like at the same time of starting therapy, I started trying to do more exercise to like help myself. So I go to like Pilates, and then when I get out of Pilates, I go get a cup of coffee at this one coffee shop, and I sit there for a few minutes, and then I go to meet my therapist.
I think that's such a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I need a better ritual right now. I used to have like my post-therapy sushi or with a different therapist, like ramen, and it was such a thing. Half the time I can't, I just have phone sessions or whatever because I can't make that time. In 2020, I'm trying to be better about actually getting out for it. But
Yeah.
really, it like helps everyone around you.
It
And
does.
do people who you work with know that this is what you're doing? Is it something you talk about in the place?
I didn't say it. It's funny, I haven't said anything about it. I mean, I think people know. I should because
I
that's
think you
the
just
whole.
did, actually.
I know totally. I think that people have like the people who have access to my calendar have like started
Yeah.
figuring out. They're like, why does Katie meet with the same person
Yeah.
every week at the
Right.
same time? Like,
Right.
and they're not in our company. Who is this person?
Right.
So I think they've like started figuring that out. But now I just shared it, but I should share it more personally.
Well, it's there's no should. It's just like whenever you feel capable of doing it. Because if it, it's a process. It's different
is.
for everyone. I've just been loud about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and I know some people are not. They don't have the luxury of being able to say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do." I had in a previous job, I got in trouble for talking about going to therapy.
Wow.
Yeah, my boss said, I was leaving. I'm like, I'm going to therapy, and like I got in trouble for this, and it was the most. It's kind of when I decided to make a break with that job. It was the most ridiculous thing, and yeah, we have to absolutely normalize talking about this stuff because you and I have both seen what happens when people do not take care of this stuff.
Even like I think everybody, even people who seem like they have all their shit together, like I think it's everybody needs somebody to be able to work through things that is not a family member or a friend because you just can't get the same perspective.
Yeah. And they're this neutral party who's on your side,
Right.
but also like the outcome doesn't affect them in some particular
Exactly.
ways.
Yeah.
So our PSA, go to therapy.
Yes.
But you were saying like even if you're not talking about it at work, you are doing a lot of other things for your employee, and I want to employees, and I want to talk about that because I think a thing we run up against all the time, like in the conversations that I have with people, both on this podcast and constantly off, is what does the longevity of this career look like to you? How do you find a sustainable way? There's people's knees and backs are not the same that they were in their 20s. People's finances and obligations are not the same that they were in their 20s. And I see more and more friends my age, like mid 40s, and so like trying to figure out like, okay, what's either sometimes people are looking for an escape strategy and some people are looking for just what's the next phase or chapter of this. So you're working on this actively with the people who work for you.
Yes, we are. I think we offer a lot. We've every year since we opened.
What year was that?
2011.
Congratulations. This is a huge stretch for a restaurant.
Thank
That's
you.
wow.
We've almost hit the decade
Wow.
mark, so it's very
Wow.
exciting. And since we started in that first year, we made a promise to ourselves that every year we would make one major change addition to our benefits and what we do for our employees.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it all at once because it's overwhelming. The finances, you don't know how much something's actually going to cost versus theoretically going to cost to offer, paid time off or whatever it is. So we set goals, and in our first year, it was like pay a living wage. It's like simple. It's like, let's just keep the lights on. Let's pay a living wage. Year two, it was like paid time off. It was like year three. I loved being forced into offering health insurance once we got big enough. I have to say I loved it.
How many people?
We have now 120 employees.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
It's our Cúrate is a monster. It's amazing.
I mean, if people saw the food that I saw, the hands that must go into making that.
And that's in the whole company, the bagel shop and the other restaurant and event space, and spread out over everything. But
That's tremendous.
it's great. And now we're still. I still don't think that we are. It's funny because we offer paid time off for all of our employees,
That's
sick time for
amazing.
managers, short-term disability for our managers, like a really interesting health care plan where we actually pay 100% for a direct primary care. So I
Wow.
love direct primary care. I just have to say, like,
What?
it's,
Explain it. I don't
so
really know what.
direct primary care is kind of a way of helping our messed up insurance world.
Yes.
So the employees and us, we contribute halfway, both of us, on a high deductible like base health insurance plan. But we all know that because those are affordable, but we all, for us and our employees, but we all know that like a high deductible plan.
I just have a new one of that myself.
You know, get strep throat, you have to go to the doctor, you got to pay. Like, and our employees do not have money in a savings bank to be able to like pay for things like that. So what we do is we couple that with a direct primary care membership, and they get to pick which one. It's basically a clinic of doctors, and they offer for a monthly fee a base amount of medical services, all like sick care. If you get strep throat, they'll do broken bones, they'll do X-rays, they'll do sutures, they do like
amazing
a large set actually of all of that care, and they spend more time with their patients.
Oh gosh,
and they're more personally available.
That is such a huge thing.
Like texting 24 hours a day, you know, like
the
whatever
practice.
you need.
Oh, the practice that I go to, and you know, I have to pay a membership fee for this, but at the same time, like my husband had gotten like some sort of shot that he had a reaction to, and he had this crazy fever, and he was able to like video chat with the doctor via this and not get out of bed to do this. And we at that point we were like, we are lucky ass people to be able to have this thing.
Yeah, and because they get paid a monthly membership, you know, I think for the doctors it works out well because they have money coming in, right? And they're not relying on the insurance company. It's like separate from the insurance world, and it's I don't know. I think it's amazing, and we also really believe that like we want our employees to take care of themselves. So that's a big part of that. But then we also offer a wellness incentive, which is basically like if you go to the doctor once your direct primary care once a year and you get your teeth cleaned and you submit the forms, we give them $300.
Yeah, right.
I'll hand you money if you do these two things. And
it's incredible that you are willing to do this. So, talk about what that looks like. You have an HR department. How do you structure this?
We have an HR manager who's amazing. She's been working for us, oh gosh, is it a year or more than a year? I don't know, time flies. I don't know if it's a year or two, but not too long. But she is making a huge impact on our company and our employees. She cares so much about their well-being. She frequently is coming up with ideas. This year, she helped us implement an anniversary recognition program where we pay every employee once they hit their anniversary a bonus check, like whether you're hourly or a manager or whatever. And then after like 5 years, it's like a large lump payment of like $1,000. And after like 10 years, you get a trip to Spain. And we're like trying to like,
oh my gosh,
we are trying to change our, you know, just how we care for our employees. And we also know that if they stay with us, that they'll see that continue to change and they'll only get more out of their job.
Yeah, what does this retention rate look like?
Well, you know, honestly, we've just implemented this stuff. So right now we're on par with everybody else in the industry, which is not great.
I mean, it's really... I feel like people I know are really struggling to hire people because they just need bodies, and there are so many jobs available in this for people who are really good at their jobs, and even sometimes just people who are not so great at their jobs and willing to show up to work.
I know. It's we have to figure out a way to make these, because at the same time there's that, but then also all the restaurant owners and chefs complain about a labor crisis in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And you think like there's a shortage, I can't find anybody.
Yeah, that's what I keep
leaving.
hearing.
I know.
Yeah.
But then I think, well, of course there's a labor crisis. Like if you were getting out of whatever, starting your career in your life, and you're looking at the options that are open to you, and you're looking at an industry that has been known for being low paying, zero benefits,
abusive as hell,
totally abusive culture, late nights, so that you basically like can't like, you know, family life is really hard if you ever wanted to have kids, like how you juggle childcare, you know. Why would you ever jump into that for a career?
Exactly. Know? Like I think like why you see all this, why would you want to go and do that? And especially people who've been to cooking school, like why would you want to spend God knows 6 figures like on going to culinary school and then go and work for minimum wage or less if it's like a tipped minimum wage state.
Yeah.
Like how do you make that look attractive?
it's crazy, and So that is why I think that this stuff has to change. The other thing that our HR manager pushed us to do is we were having our sous chefs working and assistant managers and managers working 50 hours a week, which isn't crazy. It was 50.
That's like in the restaurant industry, that's practically like being halftime.
But, she brought up and she said to me, she said, Katie, you really got to get them down to 40, because like for people to be able to have a balanced life, like move, have kids, like get home, do a normal whatever their life is, and have time to spend with their families and significant others and, friends, that working more than 40 is hard to do all that.
And especially if you're on a vampire schedule.
Right, exactly. So we're rolling that out this month because she's been pushing us so hard. And I feel we'd had to hire an extra manager in order to make it happen, but I think it's worth it. So
it's been an interesting thing to see how people are negotiating this around the world, because for a while we saw like Magnus Nielsen doing this at Fäviken, but then he's closing Fäviken so he can have more time, and it's we're in such an interesting age of people trying to finally making the moves to really work out how to do this and make sure that people stay in the business, but it's been really hard to find models where it actually does work for everyone, so the owner, and especially chef owner and front of house owners, are not tearing their hair out over every single step,
right?
And like it comes at a cost to someone. This seems to a lot. So I'm so grateful that you're putting in the time to figure out how this can work, because I know you're going to model this behavior for other people then.
Yeah, I am working really hard on that. And I actually, honestly, like in Asheville, since I had 2 children and we have multiple businesses.
How old are they?
4 and 1.
Little bitties. Little
cats.
tiny bitties.
They're super sweet. But, I don't, in Asheville, I have, now that we have multiple businesses, like I spend so much time just managing the businesses and like what's like being more of a business owner than I do actually cooking anymore. And
how does that feel for you?
It's weird. I'm enjoying it though, because I see like you have to be able to move into the next step and then make room for others, to step up to fill your spot. And that feels good to me, actually. I couldn't keep going at, working all nights and cooking like for forever. It just I don't think it's sustainable for me.
Yeah,
so.
like I'm always so surprised to see those, chefs who are like still on the line, and still doing that. Like, how the hell? Like, it must be something in them that's fueled. I mean, we saw our friend Bill Smith at Crook's Corner, like working there in the kitchen stuff, like through his like mid-60s or so, because that's the kind of person he is. There's something in him that needs and loves that rhythm, and he's so ingrained with his crew and stuff. But it's a rare person who can or wants to be in the thick of that forever. So so I ask a lot of people about next steps, but let's talk about the step that you are still currently on, because you're not just planning the business and you're not just in the kitchen or just at home. You're out there speaking truth to power, and you are working for causes, and you spend a lot of your personal and professional capital on making sure that people are taken care of and that legislation is being passed to make sure that there's a future for the industry and the people in your state.
Yes, and I think I try to share and shout and spread the things that are important to us, and make it, to me, accepting of people and all people is like one of the most important things that's easy to like really get riled up and passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the first
Where
things.
you see injustice, you want to make it just. Yeah.
You do, and you want to share very loudly and clearly your stance on that injustice. So I think, I think that's important.
And that can be risky for a business owner to step up and take a public stance on something.
Yes, absolutely. I think, yes. But you know what? Actually, I disagree. Every time I have done it, I have gotten way more positive feedback than like, you get like maybe one person, who's and you know what? I'm willing to be like, I'm sorry if we disagree on this like base humanity, like humane issue, like then you don't have to come in. It's okay.
Right. You can fire a customer. It's okay to fire a customer.
Yes.
It's really like, yeah, I've been so heartened by, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by this at all. I'm kind of not, because people in the food industry are some of the best and most generous souls I know on the planet, because you're in the business of feeding people and making them feel at home and warm and good. So it shouldn't surprise me that people are so invested in going to, speak on Capitol Hill and all this kind of stuff, because of course you're taking care of everybody else. But at the same time, small business is hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a big and risky
I
thing.
would love to do more of that. Like I went and spoke out about SNAP and like trying to make sure we were keeping funding in that area. And
where have we landed on that at this point?
I think things are still like in.
They keep trying to sort of hide cuts.
Yes, in other areas. So it's not, but so I did that, but honestly, there are so many other issues, and I would love to dedicate more of my time to doing that.
You would have to have a clone.
But, and there are chefs who are doing a lot more than I am, I feel like, in that area. It's something I'm passionate about.
You're doing plenty. You really are.
Yeah, well, thank you.
No, and I appreciate it, because it's something you don't have to do. I mean, I know for you personally, like, you have to do it, but like.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
just note that it is appreciated. It is seen. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the bagel shop. So we got I drove you into a Jersey tangent here, but you decided to open, because it's not like you didn't have a ton on your plate and you decided to open another business, a bagel shop, a year ago.
And that was purely like a passion thing.
I'm passionate about bagels.
I did it very like selfishly. So I've been, having grown up in the Northeast and then moved back to the Southeast, and I love biscuits, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like they're. I've been suffering in silence for years.
Talk to me, Katie. Please, maybe we'll tear up here.
about not being able to get a good bagel.
A good bagel there's nothing else like it.
So we created the Button and Cubby Bagel Shop because I wanted to have a casual breakfast, lunch, counter service thing. And I also wanted to make everything from scratch, like myself. Like, if I'm going to go into something like this, I want to like do it all.
Were you always a masochist?
Yes, my entire life.
Yep.
I actually, part of my journey, I studied chemical engineering in college because somebody told me that was like the hardest major.
So I, Katie Button, will of course
will do whatever is least advised. So, it's been great. I love having this little place.
How was that, by the way? So the chemical engineering, how has that informed you as a chef?
It just means that I'm really good at writing protocols and recipes. So putting things in a way that is reproducible by staff so that it comes out the same way every time is my jam.
Because I was going to ask about your R&D for the bagel, because that is a difficult thing, and people will let you know.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I think there are so many New York expats in Asheville, so I'm sure you have rather a rabid audience there.
I think people are just really thrilled and happy about it. And instead of just doing New York style bagels, we've like woven Appalachian culture into our bagels.
Oh, how is it? Okay, so talk about that.
So we, first of all, we were developing the bagel recipe. I really wanted to use some local flour from Carolina ground, but I learned when I was doing it that the big reason that the Southeast is biscuit country and not known for sourdough bread and bagels is because the type of wheat that grows there doesn't have as much gluten.
That's soft winter wheat.
Exactly. And it is lower in gluten quantity, right? So it's, which is not good for bagels, right? But great for biscuits.
So do you have to import the flour?
So I get, we get a high gluten, organic, high gluten flour from another company, and then we blend it with some of this local Southern flour to bring in flavor from Carolina Ground is the flour miller in Asheville, and we weave that into the bagels. But then we also, so typically in New York style bagels, they use barley malt syrup for in the bagel and then also in the boil. And that's what actually makes the bagels like shiny when you bake them. And then in Montreal, they use honey. So I tried like a bunch of different things, and we landed on using sorghum syrup because of where we are.
How very Southern of you.
and just, I mean, it makes sense with the story of Western North Carolina and where we're located. So we wove that in, and then in our, cream cheeses, and like we have like a pimento cheese bagel sandwich.
Oh,
and
God,
that sounds.
You just said so many words that I love all together that I've never heard together before.
It's delicious. And then we make like ramp cream cheese every spring when we have ramps.
Oh my God, because where you are is, because ramps have had this viral life.
Yes.
And where they've become this thing, and it's sort of like, no, these are just our thing that we've always had. You were there before they were cool, man.
Right, exactly. And then we pickle the bulbs and put them on our like house-made gravlax plate, and it's fun to weave the local culture into the bagel shop. So
I really love that, and I also really love that Appalachian food is. I feel like there's finally some recognition that is happening because some people have been campaigning so hard, just tirelessly. Like you have Travis Milton.
Travis is amazing.
Oh my gosh, Ronnie Lundy,
Yes.
like just all these people who have been the carriers of Appalachian culture, black, white, just everybody, coming
Right.
to it's really such a special tradition that because of classism and racism and all sorts of other factors has been looked down on for such a long time, and it's such incredible food that honors the earth in such a very particular way.
And I'm still learning about Appalachian food because I'm not from that area. I don't have this like history rich with stories of family and recipes and things. So, but in Asheville, you're just surrounded by it. And so it's been really fun for me to learn little bits and pieces about the traditions of the area and the food ways.
Yeah, I would say can't erase Sean Brock from there too.
Oh man, yes.
And I just feel like what's happening in Asheville is so exciting because Ashley Shanti and she's it's
with Bene.
I have not been to Bene yet, and like that's next time I go and see my folks.
You need to do it
because she seems like she is doing such special stuff, and it just feels like Asheville is having this really incredible boom. And
she is. She's doing amazing things. And actually talking about it's reminding me that I need to reach out to her just to connect on like a level of like, what do you need? I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, let me help you. Let's talk.
And she has another partner there who's working, another woman whose name escapes me right now, but who is also.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think there are some people, but I just think she's awesome. So special and cool, and it's just really fun to see people discover what she's doing there. Yeah. So you're doing this, and meanwhile you're taking all of this. You have a million jobs, and you're coming to New York you've been here since Thanksgiving. We're recording this in mid-January, so you've been here for a while.
Yeah, 7 weeks, I think.
And you had the family here for a while?
They were here for all the way from Thanksgiving through until January 5th, and then they went back. We brought our 2 kids, my Felix, my husband, and our nanny, so that Felix could also help in the restaurant in the front of house side of things. And
let's explain where you were cooking, where you have been.
So I've been holding a residency at the Chef's Club in Manhattan, and it's basically just we brought Cúrate up to New York and have been running nightly service Monday through Saturday, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot of work, of course, because like coming up and training a staff how to execute your food, and then I'm there every night to make sure that everything's running well, and it's long days but very much worth it and fun to be able to bring who we are and our food up to New York and see people who we normally wouldn't be able to see when we're in Asheville. So.
That's such an incredible thing. Like, and Chef's Club is just, it's a really cool way of doing this because we get the benefit of like having people from out of town who aren't usually cooking in New York. Sometimes people use it as an incubator for the thing they want to do next. Remember, JJ Johnson used it as a launch pad for what he was doing, and what became Field Trip eventually. Like,
That's
it's,
awesome.
yeah, it's been a really, really cool thing to be able to do. And do you find it like, as a chef, as a creative, that being somewhere other than your daily routine helps you refresh what you're thinking about?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think on all of our dishes, we looked at like the plating and preparation with like new eyes. It was in a different space, and and also just what our menu looks like as well. And so I'm excited. I do feel re-energized about going back to Asheville and looking at Cúrate and its menu and making some changes off of the experience that we've had, which is great.
So how do you set it up then with the people on your team who, when you decide to make a change or like, uproot and go elsewhere when, you and Felix are both here, how do you set that up? How do you empower the people to say like, okay, you got this show now? Like how does that happen?
You just do it. Like I actually think, I mean, it's been wonderful. Like I think there's something about leaving that all of a sudden you see and I think it's because when I am there, I am such a I'll just do it kind of person about things.
Yeah.
That by being that way, I'm actually limiting people from being able to step in above their role or up into a role. And it's been fun to see all these things that I maybe used to be doing, like even writing. I was like writing the schedule at the bagel shop to try to, because it's a new business. I'm trying to keep a handle on labor. I want to be like personally involved in what that looks like and what the scheduling looks like and how that works. And then when I left, it was like all of a sudden my team just started doing it without me even asking them. I was even planning on still doing it from New York.
Right.
Which is really silly.
I swear, I have so many chef friends who, they're in New York, they're away from their restaurant, and I see them looking at their phone. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, looking in the kitchen on an app. I'm like, dude, come on. Like,
let it go.
Yes.
Actually, it's been wonderful. And we are fortunate to have amazing managers working for us who want autonomy. They really crave it, and they do a great job at it.
That's a really, really cool thing.
And and the thing is that people are going to make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
But you have to make mistakes to then not make them again, and it's okay. You work through them and learn from them, and that's part of growth.
How do you address a mistake if somebody screws up during service, screws up a dish, something like that? Like, how do you do that?
I actually usually, in the moment, I just fix the problem, So it's like, okay, do this. And then after it's fixed, then it's having a conversation about why the mistake happened and the what. And I think it depends on, there are all different kinds of mistakes, okay?
Right.
But in the end, I never let things get too crazy or out of control in my mind. It's not who I am, and it's not how I like to talk to people, because in the end, we are just cooking food. Like, it's not brain surgery. Like, people's lives are not, I mean, besides as long as you're following, health department protocols, people's lives are fine.
So long as no one goes anaphylactic, we're good.
We're good. So, I think understanding that and like relaxing a little bit, and then also the thing that I also try to make sure my staff knows is like mistakes are okay. As long as you learn from them, when mistakes become a problem is when they're repeating,
Right.
But the first time or even the second time you haven't learned, like, and you make a mistake, like, it's not, like, it's understandable.
Yeah.
So
how do you deal then with somebody who something isn't necessarily a mistake, but you see that somebody's having a problem?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That is, you have, like, it is true, because lots of times when people aren't performing in their role in a job, it's because there's something else going on.
Yeah.
or they're just unhappy, or maybe they don't like their job,
Mm-hmm.
or they have something in their personal life or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And a lot of times that can turn into mistakes or underperformance
Mm-hmm.
at work. And I think sitting down and having those honest conversations where you're like, hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? And being willing to just listen, I think is the most important.
And what's the best? And I'm saying this so people can learn from what you've done. Like, what is the best way to do that? Do you take a walk? Do people come into the office? Like, how do you? What is the physicality of this
I
conversation?
mean, I think you need someplace private. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's like, walking in the outback in our like parking lot area that we have out there, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can get out. I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
The office is often the most convenient,
Yeah.
because you're there. But
Yeah.
and usually, I try to have those conversations like at the end of their day,
Because that'll screw up a whole day. I mean, they already know that they're
Totally. And
feeling.
and lots of times then it's funny because you can feel that like a certain employee's performance is
Mhm.
happening because of a reason. In your mind you're creating those reasons, right? Like
Yeah.
you just start doing that. But then when you have that, I think it's really important to have the conversation, not just for the employee,
Yeah.
but for the manager.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you like open up the door, you start to understand them more as a person.
Yeah.
And they understand that you care about them as a person and not just an employee.
I feel like these one-to-one conversations, we're all so afraid of being awkward.
Right.
Like people think that somehow, awkwardness is the worst thing that can happen. And I think so long as we're willing to have that moment and be
Yeah.
really personal with somebody and just say like, human to human, I give a crap about you.
Yeah.
Like what's really going on. That is a really tremendous thing. And I know that, could bring this out to a broader thing of like, because of social media, nobody actually talks to each other kind of thing. But I do think it's becoming a rarefied thing, these one-on-one interactions where we really get to look at somebody and talk with them and say, like, I see you as a person and not just words on a screen. It's a difficult thing.
And then sharing, I think also what you can do is share something similar, like
Yeah.
why you, like mistakes that you've made.
Yeah.
I have found that the more that I share with
Yeah.
the world and my public about, and my employees about
Mm-hmm.
mistakes that I've made or how I'm feeling and be willing to be vulnerable about that the more that I do that, the better.
It's a gift. You know what they say? Like, vulnerability is a gift. Like,
Yeah.
giving that kind of thing. And now that you've told the world that about therapy and stuff like that,
Totally.
that is a gift.
Yeah.
There is somebody who's, might be listening to this, or somebody who is on your team who is going to hear that and be like, oh, wait, Katie said she goes to therapy. Maybe it's something that I can do too. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me crazy. It doesn't make me any of these things. It's just going to the gym for my brain,
Right. What I'm most proud of about was about taking the step to go to therapy, because
Yeah.
I
Oh, it's
it's
so
like
hard.
it is. Yeah.
It's mechanically hard because you have to identify a therapist to go to, figure out how to pay for it,
Right.
figure out the time to do it,
Yeah.
and then figure out if you're not comfortable with talking to people about telling them where you're going or
Yes. But also feeling like if there's like a certain way that you're feeling that's what you need at that moment in life,
Yeah.
like I made this decision the day Felix left town to go to a 4-week tour. He was gone for 4 weeks
Mhm.
doing traveling tours in Spain that we do
Mhm.
through our trips. And it was funny. It was the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday. And and I was home with both kids, and I
Mhm.
said bye to him, and he got in the car and like drove to the airport. And the minute that I said bye to him and he walked out the door, I felt this like overwhelming sense of sadness.
Yeah.
And it was like the middle of the afternoon. I'm like looking at my kids. I'm like, what is going on? Because I was feeling overwhelmed and alone.
It's physical too. Like,
Yes.
that's the thing I think that people don't understand always, or if they haven't been in that space or they haven't let themselves put the dots together,
Yeah.
that it has such a physical effect. I know I get exhausted. I know
Yeah.
my body hurts. I
Totally.
know that I feel like there's a fog coming over me, or, the sort of opposite of that, if it's not the depression thing, if it's the anxiety thing, that my body won't stop. And
Yeah.
the physicality of it is so intense. And if you're there and you're trying to take care of the kids and they, kids pick up on it.
Yes, and then you're not taking as good care of yourself. At least for
Yeah.
me, it usually turns into I end up staying up later than I
Oh
should.
God,
and
I stay up.
you
I
know,
stay
it's
up till
crazy.
4. I think
Yeah.
I do this whole thing where I think like, oh, I haven't done enough today to justify my existence on the planet, so I have to do work. I have to do
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Or there's always one more Netflix
Right,
episode.
exactly. Totally.
And then you feel
Yeah.
like shit
So
the
like,
next day because you
yeah.
haven't slept. And
And it just continues.
so, what does your sleep look like? Like, are you good at sleep?
I am okay. I am okay at sleep. I'm like I once I'm asleep, I'm like
Okay,
I'm good.
good.
I'm good at sleep.
Yeah.
But I do have trouble falling asleep, and I have trouble making the decision of,
Oh
like
God.
that's smart. Like okay, I need to be in bed for like 9 hours. I need that much time, and
Yeah.
to feel really really good. But oftentimes I'm not hitting that. But
Oh my God.
it's my own personal.
Over the past year, I finally listened to all of those, every expert, every podcast or whatever. They're like, make your bedroom into this like temple of
Yeah.
sleep. And we got this sound machine that I was staying
Yes.
at the Zero George Hotel. I had like one night there. I was like in Charleston for something. I somehow got upgraded to this incredible suite, and there was this
That
machine
place is
in it.
amazing.
Oh my God, I had the best sleep that I had in ages. And this machine, you adjust it to, I swear they are not sponsoring this podcast. Please, Sound Plus Sleep Adaptive Technology
Right.
sponsor this podcast because they talk about you all the time. It is this thing, and you can adjust these nature sounds and how reactive it
That's
is.
awesome.
The genius thing about it is that if there's a noise, it sort of rises up to mask
no
the
way.
noise. So if somebody in the relationship is snoring, sometimes
It
it's me,
gets
sometimes
louder?
it's yes. So
That's so funny.
or if a bus goes by or whatever
That's
it is.
amazing.
So I have those, and I have 2 humidifiers. My husband, I have that like one on his side of the room and one on mine, and oh my God, it's helped so much.
My sound machine is the only way I've been surviving sleeping in Brooklyn, like in
Oh my
an
God.
old building that when somebody walks upstairs,
Yeah.
it like creaks with like every step. And I swear I'm like staying below somebody who's paces at like 2 a.m.
Oh
and
my
I'm
God.
like,
Our neighbors were moving for something was happening late last night. Like, really, man? Really?
Why?
But this particular one is adaptive, and it's
That's awesome.
such a great thing. I also do travel with a little one.
That's great.
As
I
well.
love that.
It's such a good thing. But just to get back to the decision to go to therapy thing, you and I are both, privileged middle class white women.
Totally.
And if it's hard for us to do this stuff, holy hell, is it hard for, people who didn't grow up with either a culture that supports therapy or the money, or there's all different factors that keep them from going to therapy. So, I find a lot of what I have to do is like find places for people to go that are free or no
Yeah.
cost. So,
We offer like an employee assistance program,
Yeah.
which does that,
Yeah.
for a certain number of free sessions a year, and anyone in your household can go, and I think that is, and I encourage people all the time to go and talk about it, but it's true that you have to get to something more permanent that's just temporary.
Yeah, there's the bridge thing.
and then how do you move? There are often times that I think about the things that I find challenging in life, and then I think about how much more challenging that would be for somebody who walks in a different pair of shoes,
Yeah.
and like having children and being a chef and a business, having 2 kids, like I have been able to make that happen because I am my boss and I have flexibility, and I'm like able to make this life work for myself. I can also afford a nanny, so therefore having to deal with non-traditional work hours is not an issue for me. But
Yeah.
I think about how does that work for somebody who doesn't have all of that, one of my employees even,
I mean, people
and-
who go into the service industry are not usually from wealthy backgrounds, wealthy
Right.
privileged backgrounds, or anything like that. It might be from more marginalized or vulnerable populations. So getting people, it's finding therapy for people. So it's a
yes, it's really important.
I think you and I both do a lot of talk in the talk. It's the walk in the walk it's I think so many people are still working on like how do we actually get people to these resources to do this. It's such a hard thing, and if anybody has any thoughts about this, I want to hear. want to hear any suggestions, I know that like the people from the Giving Kitchen, who
Yes,
cannot
they're
say enough good things
awesome.
about them.
Gosh.
They figured out some things in Georgia about how to get emergency funds to people, but state by
Wow.
state, there are so many barriers
Yeah.
to this. And I know North Carolina has been a pretty challenging state on a whole lot of fronts. My
Yeah.
entire in-law, like all of my in-laws live in North Carolina, so I'm pretty intimately acquainted with a lot of the stuff going on there, and there are some barriers to a lot of things.
Yes, and the Giving Kitchen is amazing. We had all of our managers take their suicide training program, which
It's an incredible
was
thing.
awesome. I took it myself, and I loved it. It surprised me, like when I took that training, because I thought, wow, I did not know that the most powerful thing you can do is ask somebody
Yes.
and just be totally upfront about it. Like, are you thinking about committing suicide? Like,
Yes.
are you thinking about suicide or whatever
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I took
Yeah.
the training. I don't know the exact phrase.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I've done some of this training as well, and it's shocking to have to ask somebody that, but putting it into those words, it snaps the brain into reality. If somebody's having these vague thoughts or very specific thoughts, it's like, oh, yes, I have to confront this now, and
Right.
it's such an incredible release valve. So for people who want to learn about this, escalation technique or de-escalation technique. It's really powerful. So the Giving Kitchen has these resources available.
Yes.
Crisis text line. I just want to give them a shout out, as I often do, because I've taken their crisis counselor training and worked as a crisis counselor there. And somebody's there 24/7. You text 741-741, and it's quiet, which is a really great thing. So for people who are in situations where where it would be dangerous for them to be heard talking on the phone to someone, you can text with somebody there, and they will respond, and either they'll stay with you and they'll keep you safe, but they do this incredible training, and they have you
That's
ask people like, are you thinking about killing yourself, and then sort
Wow.
of escalating from there to,
Wow.
but the same kind of training to do, and it's so
Right.
valuable.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
never know who or when you're going to need it with. And
Right.
it is such a powerful thing.
Yes, and I just remembered from my training that committing suicide is not the correct terminology. It's like,
Yeah,
it's not.
died by suicide is the
Yes.
sort of way for
Yes.
people who are, and it's interesting. They've been trying to get people in the news to change it, so it's,
Right.
there are various ways to say it and stuff.
Yeah.
But if it gets you to where you need to go in the moment and you forget it, it's
Yeah.
asking the question
Totally.
is what's important.
Is what is important.
Yeah, but so with all of this stuff you've been doing, how you do change it up every year, all this, and you're thinking, you give yourself these deliberate points of inflection and reflection, like where you're thinking about, like, okay, we're going to switch it up. Here's what we're going to do. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned through all the time you've been doing this? What is the most helpful thing that you have learned and that has really changed the way that you operate, either as a human or as a business person?
Honestly, I think that the biggest thing that I have learned is that if I can share my own like shortcomings, that all of a sudden that opens up a dialogue and conversation about whatever the topic is that is more positive and real and calm than if I'm just trying to like make points, like I
Yeah.
don't know. I found there's something really powerful to sharing your own shortcomings, and maybe that's in reaction to social media and the fact that we're all posting these beautiful, perfect lives.
Oh God, yeah.
No
one.
And I'm at fault. I'm at fault for that too. But occasionally, I muster up the courage to share something.
I think
that's-
you're really good about it.
Thank you. That's like a failure, or like I whether it's simple like cooking something that turned out really bad, or like so that people understand that yes, I'm a chef and it looks like all these things are happening in my life and they're unfolding really easily, but in reality, I had the same problem.
It is a gift. You like to see that from people who, we all think of as successful and all this kind of stuff. It is a gift you're giving. So I appreciate that. Speaking of, you do all of these things for all these other people, for causes, for the people who work with you, for the people in your life. What is, and I say this like the Oprah moment, where, because we're saying this out to the world, so maybe somebody listening to this can help you get to this place. What is the thing you want for yourself, the selfish thing? Selfish in a good way. What is the thing you want for yourself?
I want to balance my work and more time with my kids. And I think so. The experience working at the Chef's Club has been amazing because I've really loved like getting back in it and doing it. But I'm back working not every day, but most days 12 hours a day. I come in at 11 and I finish at 11, and like I work nights, and so when my kids were up here in December, I would get up in the morning because I was getting home late and then eating dinner and like doing that nighttime thing where you like then go to bed and then you wake up in the morning, and then I'd say goodbye to my kids and like leave and then be gone all day. Right. And I don't want that, you know? And I am ambitious for short zaps of time. And I've actually, maybe I'm too ambitious because I also haven't been doing a great job at this overall, but I've got to figure out how to say no and how to pick and choose the stuff and make my life the way that I want to live it, because we do only have one. So it's, I know it's cliche, but it's true.
No. Anybody who can help Katie figure this out, please do. She gives so much to so many people.
Yeah. That's the main conversation with my therapist, is how to, do what I want to do and not do what I think everybody else wants me to do.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that the more you figure this out, the more you figure out you're going to do it in a way that ends up benefiting other people, because that's just how you roll and how you'll be happy with yourself. And
hopefully.
So now I have some questions that I ask everybody. All right, speed round.
I'm ready.
Have you ever cried in the walk-in?
Wine cellar, not walk-in.
Okay. Are you comfortable telling the story of why you cried in the
Yes, it was our opening night at Cúrate, and I just did not feel prepared. I hadn't had enough experience at that time, and we just opened a restaurant, and I had been nothing higher than a line cook. We just wanted to do it,
Wow.
So it wasn't that I came and worked for years. Yes, I worked in some awesome places, but I didn't have that. So it was so I had this like meltdown of like, I can't do this. I'm not ready. Everything's going to fall apart.
Oh.
And then I just like pulled myself together and went upstairs and made it.
Was anybody present? Just you?
No,
and
it was
just
just
you and the
me.
wine?
It was just me.
You and the Chateauneuf de Pape,
Just
or actually a
me.
Spanish wine.
Right,
You and the Rioja.
exactly. Just me. So.
Oh my gosh. My colleague Meg Soul wants me to ask people, I love this, what is your go-to cookbook? What is an old one? What is a new one?
So the Dean and DeLuca book is my old
What?
one.
Tell.
It is awesome, I have to say. Every single recipe I make from that book is perfect. Like,
Wow.
There's
going to be a
cook.
run on this on Amazon. Dean and
cook
DeLuca is
from
no
it.
longer with us.
I know, and the cookbook is just I don't know. All the recipes are perfect. It's not my go-to like simple fast family dinner cookbook. I mean, you can find those recipes in there, but it's more like my advanced, like, I'm going to make a giant pot of bolognese, or I'm going to braise like this and then put it in the freezer and have it, and like take the time to make it and follow this recipe that might take a little while, but then the end result is amazing.
Oh, I love that. And is there a new cookbook like in the past year or that is coming up that you're just like, yes?
I've been really enjoying reading cookbooks about Appalachian food.
Yes, Ronnie's.
Is wonderful, and also Sean Brock's cookbooks.
Oh, it's spectacular. I can't even. I love it so much.
And I just like look through those to get ideas and learn about the culture and other stories, because as I said, I live there and I'm surrounded by it. I don't have that history of family tradition. So I learn it reading other people's work, which is fun.
Yeah, and there are some really historic ones. The Foxfire book of Appalachia. Oh my God.
I don't have that one. I'm going to get it.
Oh my God.
Okay.
It is an extraordinary cookbook. It's such a beautiful thing. Oh, that's such a great list of cookbooks. I love that. I'm trying to, what is the hardest job in a restaurant?
Oh gosh, they're all hard.
Yeah.
I think washing the dishes though is the hardest job in the restaurant.
Like 90% of people have
I mean,
said that. Yeah.
particularly in tapas. I mean, the volume of dishes that go
cannot-
through it's insane.
It didn't even occur to me when I asked you that question. Like, yes, of course that would be so.
It's insane. And also it takes a special person to, I mean, all jobs have monotony at a certain level, but you have to really like love just doing the work, but the whole thing doesn't work without that
Yeah.
role, so it's anyway.
Have you had to step into the dish pit?
Not anymore, but I did in the beginning. Yeah. There were times. I mean, in the beginning, you're doing everything. When you're first opening a restaurant, I mean, you're cleaning the fryer, you're mopping the floor, you're doing the dishes, you're like literally doing everything. Now it ripples down, right? So like my sous chefs might have to step in now and do that, but it like the roles, who fills in and jumps in to help changes, just because I'm also not there as much as I used to be in the beginning.
Oh my God. It's, everybody says that or host stand. It's really,
that also. Gosh,
I cannot. Dealing with entitled people.
the personalities, yeah, it's hard. I think what's cool about the restaurant industry is you get both the highs and the lows. You get like the people who are just so excited and they're willing, and then you do have to deal with learning how to turn somebody around when they haven't had a great experience. It can be challenging.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
What's your comfort food? I think we established it as bagels, but
I know, exactly. I don't know. Bagels, yes, I do. That's something, but lasagna, it might just be something like this.
It's in the zeitgeist right now. It's been declared like various news outlets year of lasagna.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is so funny.
Like, yeah, it's a thing. Anna Hazel wrote this incredible. She and like the staff of Taste like wrote this incredible lasagna.
I didn't even know that.
Oh my God, it came out last year.
That's
It's so
awesome.
good.
Oh.
But you're right on.
right on trend, lasagna.
It is. What is the last meal that you had that made you emotional?
I had this amazing experience at Olmsted while we were here.
Oh God, yeah.
We went.
They are lovely
They
people.
are lovely people, and we went for a brunch and brought some friends of ours, and we had this amazing brunch. But then afterwards, because it was a beautiful day in December,
We're getting those.
It was a beautiful day. They happen occasionally. For dessert, they brought us in the back. It was a cold, chilly day, but beautiful. And we went to their back garden that is now, it's winter, so I wasn't quite sure like how that was going to work. They had s'mores. Like we cooked s'mores over these teeny tiny little like coal little like fires, and it was I was there. The people visiting us were from Spain, so I got to teach a bunch of Spaniards how to make s'mores. There's this video of me like speaking Spanish, trying to explain to Spaniards like how to properly make
I
a
want to
s'more,
see this.
because they'd never seen it before. So.
Oh my God, is that on social somewhere?
I don't know if I've shared it yet, but I am going to.
Please
this
do.
week,
We will embed
it's
that.
great.
And is this the cold medicine talking, or is there a turtle that lives back there in the backyard?
I don't know. I didn't meet the turtle.
I think there
It's-
had
no,
maybe
they're
it's
very
probably
well-
hibernating.
They're
Actually.
very well could
But for
be a
some
turtle.
reason, I'm thinking it could also be the cold medicine.
Yeah.
What is the last meal that somebody made for you in their home? Though I asked this and I realized I promised to cook dinner for you. And
Did you?
I think we may have both been tipsy when
I
I
think
was-
probably. So, I have some dear friends in Asheville who cooked dinner for us in their home before. Actually, no, they cooked Thanksgiving dinner for us here. That's the
Oh,
meal.
wow.
So they came up to New York, and we were here working that whole first week, getting ready to open the residency at the Chef's Club, and it was really exciting. But I was super busy and couldn't do Thanksgiving, and they invited us and our kids over to an apartment that they had rented in Brooklyn just for the week of Christmas, because they cooked the whole thing, and it was awesome. And I just sat there and enjoyed myself.
Oh my gosh, good. And usually people won't cook for chefs, which is why I asked that question. People are afraid to cook for people in the restaurant industry. They just want to be fed.
Totally.
Make it a can of
it's
soup.
like-
It's fine.
I actually think it's really nice to sit in somebody's home and eat a dinner
I do.
cooked cooked by them. And somebody recently asked me in New York, like, do you want to go out or do you want to come to our house? I was like, please, can I just go to your house?
Oh my gosh, because, well, how long are you here? Because I still owe you, because I did promise to cook for you.
Till February 1st.
Okay, we
we
got some time. Good,
bit,
good. I'm excited about this. I'll make you some s'mores on
Perfect.
the grill. So what living musician who you have not gotten to cook for would you want to cook for, and what would you make for them?
Oh man, these questions are tough.
People tend to get hung up on this one.
I think probably because unless you're really you're like really in the music world, or like I'm so hyper focused in my area that I'm trying to think who that would be.
Like, what tape did you wear out in high school, or like what CD? Or
I know.
Like, what is that thing?
I listened to a lot of Modest Mouse in high school.
Oh yeah,
Which was early Modest Mouse. I loved that. So, and I would say Archers of Loaf, but I actually got to cook.
Oh, you did?
Yes, Eric Bachman. So I got to cook for him at Cúrate when we opened, and have since seen them like a couple of times because actually they're from North Carolina. So
there's so many good North Carolina bands
Yes,
out there.
yes.
That's why I was thinking, like, you must have
So
many people
either
come
of
through.
those would be I would cook for Eric again, or
That's really cool. Have a Modest Mouse, whoever is in the band at the time. I think it's weird that like Johnny Marr sometimes decides he's a member of Modest Mouse and like play with him. Like, it just kind of blows my mind.
Exactly.
So, final question. You have 5 uninterrupted minutes for self-care. What do you do?
I would read a book.
Yeah.
I would read a book.
What are you reading right now?
Nothing, because I would love to.
Because you don't have...
That's like what I want to do. I'm not. What I do is I, like, at the end of work, my routine is I come home, I have a beer, and I fix myself some dinner, and I watch something on Netflix. But honestly, I am feeling like I need to turn the screen off. Like,
Trying
there's
that.
something
Oh, yeah.
like reading a book I think it's easier to put down, go to bed, like stay in your routine versus, I don't know, like watching something bright, all the time. So maybe that's a 2020 resolution.
I'm here
Read
with
3 times a week. So
I'm here with you on that. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, thank you for taking your time and being here. And so if people want to find you on social.
Yes, it's Chef Katie Button, so on all channels.
Okay, and for the next few weeks, they can find you at Chef's Club.
Yes.
And then in Asheville, they can find you at Cúrate and at Button & Co. Bagels. And you have a book, right?
Yes, we have a cookbook, the Cúrate cookbook, so you can absolutely find me there. So
right, and at your local book distributor, whatever your indie folks are, super great and could use your help. And I know you have a lot of great bookstores in Asheville. Are there anywhere like people could buy autographed copies or anything?
We sell them at the restaurant, and then in Cúrate, we also sell those online as well on our website, so you can grab them there. You can also get them at the Chef's Club right now while I'm here.
And I bet Kitchen Arts and Letters has it. Go to those good people.
Yes. Malaprops in Asheville is another great independent bookseller.
You know what? I had such a brief time in Asheville, and I made a point of going to Malaprops.
Good.
What a great bookstore.
Awesome.
And again, I want to shout out the good work that the people at the Giving Kitchen are doing.
Yes.
So look them up online, and also crisis text line 741-741. Spread the word. Put it up in your locker room. Put it wherever you need to. Just normalize that. And talking about therapy. I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for coming in.
Kat.
And I want to thank all of our crew here, all our audio and visual people, our producers. Like, we have some new people on here. We have Hallie Tarpley, we have Margot Gotthelf, and we have the incredible Jennifer Martnick. Thank you all to all your production that you do, and thanks for the spirit you lend to this and everything you do. If this is part of Food and Wine Pro, Communal Table is part of Food and Wine Pro, which is something that we're doing on foodandwine.com and also out in the world as much as we can. And we're trying to focus on the issues that really affect people in restaurants. There's a lot of educational stuff there from people in the industry talking about real estate and finances and hiring and taking care of yourself in the industry. So go to foodandwine.com, find our stories there. You can sign up for for the newsletter that is either written by our editor-in-chief, Hunter Lewis. He does it every week, and if every once in a while I get to fill in for the great Hunter Lewis, we always have the most recent podcast in there as well. Food One Pro is a pretty exciting thing. And if you want to hear more of Communal Table, it really, really helps if you leave comments and stars and all that stuff that helps out in the algorithm. It helps people find us and helps us keep getting to do the show that we love, that you can find on all the different podcast platforms as well as YouTube and other places like that. This is video and audio. Wow, it's like it's 2020 or something. And, and if there's somebody who, you want us to have on here, or something that, you want to say to me, or if you want to help, any of us get to where we're needing to go, help Katie find a more balanced life, help us fix the industry. Pretty easy to find on social at Kitten with a Whip on Twitter, on Instagram at Kat Kinsman. And thank you so much for listening. And, until the next time we talk, take good care of yourself.